Hi future scientists, I am Adam. Today we will discuss what ionic compounds are, naming tips for ionic compounds with metal ions that have a fixed charge, metal ions that have variable charges, ionic compounds with polyatomic ions, 3 common mistakes to avoid, and practice questions. So what exactly are ionic compounds? Ionic compounds are chemical compounds containing oppositely charged ions. For example, Mg2 plus ion and 2 chloride 1 minus ions, iron 2 plus ion and sulfide 2 minus ion, sodium 1 plus ion and hydroxide 1 minus ion. When a sodium atom, which is a metal, transfers an electron to a chlorine atom, a non-metal, they become sodium 1 plus ion and chloride 1 minus ion. These oppositely charged ions attract each other, forming the ionic compound NaCl. Tips for naming ionic compounds. Tip 1. Write the metal cation or positive ion first, followed by the non-metal anion or negative ion. This is a binary ionic compound. Binary ionic compounds are ionic compounds made of ions from 2 different elements. Tip 2. The name of the positive ion or the cation is the same as that of the neutral element it originates from. Example, K1 plus is referred to as potassium in the compound name. Tip 3. The name of the negative ion or the anion is formed by adding the suffix "ide" to the root of the element's name. Example, F1 minus becomes fluoride, sulfur becomes sulfide, oxygen becomes oxide, nitrogen becomes nitride, phosphorus becomes phosphide. Tip 4. If the ionic compound contains a transition metal, calculate what the charge of the metal ion is. This is because the transition metals form ions with variable charges. How do we determine the charge of the cation? Let us take FeBr2. Bromide ion has a 1 minus charge. So 2 bromide ions will have a charge of 2 minus. To balance out the 2 minus charge, Fe should be 2 plus. Now let us look at FeBr3. Bromide ion has a 1 minus charge. 3 bromide ions will have a charge of 3 minus. To balance out the 3 minus, Fe should be 3 plus. FeBr2 and FeBr3 are 2 different compounds that need different names. Tip 5. The stock system to name ionic compounds with metal ions that have variable charges is used here. The charge on the cation is denoted using a Roman numeral, enclosed within parentheses, immediately following the cation's name. Fe2 plus is referred to as iron Roman numeral 2 in parentheses, and Fe3 plus is referred to as iron Roman numeral 3 in parentheses. So FeBr2 is written as iron 2 bromide, FeBr3 is iron 3 bromide. There are some exceptions to tip 5. Exception 1. Some of the transition metals have fixed charges. They are zinc. For example, zinc forms 2 plus ion. Ag, silver, forms 1 plus ion. Cd, cadmium, forms 2 plus ion. So they do not need Roman numerals. Exception 2. Some of the main group metals form ions with variable charges. Pb, lead, can have 2 plus and 4 plus charges. Tin, Sn, can have 2 plus and 4 plus charges. So they do need Roman numerals. Tip 6. The quantity of atoms of each element present in the ionic compound is not shown in the compound name. For instance, MgCl2 is not magnesium dichloride. It is magnesium chloride. Cu2O is not dicopper monoxide. Here, the oxygen ion has a charge of 2 minus, and there are 2 copper ions. So to balance the compound, the charge of each copper ion should be 1 plus. So the name is copper 1 oxide. Tip 7. What if the ionic compounds contain polyatomic ions? So what are polyatomic ions? Polyatomic ions are two or more atoms bonded together that carry a net electric charge. Many polyatomic ions have names ending in ate or ite. Few exceptions are the hydroxide, cyanide, and ammonium. If the anion or the negative ion is a polyatomic ion, we write the name of the polyatomic ion as is. For example, KNO3 is made of K1 plus ion and the polyatomic ion nitrate, NO3 1 minus. This compound is potassium nitrate. If the cation is a polyatomic ion, we write the name of that polyatomic ion as is. NH4NO3 is made of the polyatomic ion ammonium, which is NH41 plus, and the polyatomic ion nitrate, NO3 1 minus, so it is ammonium nitrate. Common mistakes to avoid. Mistake 1. Students sometimes wonder if MgCl2 can be magnesium, Roman numeral 2, chloride. No, it is magnesium chloride. It is incorrect to use a Roman numeral if the metal ion has a fixed charge. Mistake 2. The compound calcium hydroxide is CaOH2. Sometimes students do not use the parenthesis here and write it as CaOH2 without the parenthesis around the OH or CaO2H2. Both are incorrect. The polyatomic ion is a single entity or a closely bound team whose members work together cohesively toward a common goal. So if there are 2 or 3 units of a polyatomic ion, the polyatomic ion is written within parentheses and a subscript 2 or 3 outside. Mistake 3. The compound magnesium sulfate is MgSO4. Sometimes students write it as MgSO4 in parentheses. It is incorrect to put the sulfate here in parentheses since there is only 1 unit of SO4 2 minus ion here. Practice questions. Question 1. Ca3P2. Calcium ion has a fixed 2 plus charge. So the name of the compound is calcium phosphide. Question 2. CO2O3. Cobalt is a transition metal, so we need to find its charge. Oxygen ion has a charge of 2 minus. 3 oxygen ions will have a charge of 6 minus. To balance the charge of the compound, 2 cobalt ions will have a charge of 6 plus. 1 cobalt ion will have a charge of 3 plus. So the name of the compound is cobalt, Roman numeral 3, oxide. Question 3. Mni2. Manganese is a transition metal. Iodine forms a 1 minus ion. 2 iodine ions will have a charge of 2 minus. So 1 manganese ion will have a charge of 2 plus. So the name is manganese 2 iodide. Question 4. Al2O3. Aluminum has a fixed charge of 3 plus. So the compound is aluminum oxide. Question 5. AgNO3. Silver is a transition metal, but its ion has a fixed charge of 1 plus. So no Roman numerals. NO3 is a polyatomic ion, nitrate. So the compound is silver nitrate. Question 6. Hg2Cl2. Mercury is a transition metal. Chloride ion has a charge of 1 minus. There are 2 chloride ions here, so they have a charge of 2 minus. So 2 mercury ions will have a charge of 2 plus. 1 mercury ion will have a charge of 1 plus. So the compound is mercury 1 chloride. Question 7. PbF2. Lead forms ions with multiple charges. Fluoride ion has a fixed charge of 1 minus. 2 fluoride ions will have a charge of 2 minus. So lead ion here will have a charge of 2 plus. So it is lead 2 fluoride. Question 8. AlPO4. Aluminum has a fixed charge of 3 plus. PO4 3 minus is the polyatomic ion phosphate. So it is aluminum phosphate. Question 9. NH4 2O. NH4 1 plus is the polyatomic ion ammonium. So it is ammonium oxide. Question 10. Fe3PO4 2. Iron is a transition metal. PO43 minus is the polyatomic ion phosphate. So two phosphate ions will have a charge of 6 minus. 3 iron ions will have a charge of 6 plus to balance the compound. So one iron ion will have a charge of 2 plus. So it is iron 2 phosphate. There you have it. Naming ionic compounds made simple. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more science content. Happy learning. Thank you.